Hey everyone, this is Johnny, and welcome to episode 99 of the Travel Like Boss podcast. I'm here with Derek Pankaew in Austin, Yeehaw, Texas.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
Amazing.
So we are at a co-working space here in Austin. What is this called?
Chicone Collective.
And you worked out here for a bit?
Yep. 3 months.
If you guys recognize Derek's voice, he was on the podcast about 6 months ago. No, longer than that. It's been a year.
Probably. I've been here a year. Probably a year and 4 months is my guess.
Wow. So yeah, he was on the podcast a while back when we met in Chiang Mai, and you've been living in Austin for how long now?
Close to a year. I think about 11 months.
What made you come here?
I think I just wanted to go back to the U.S. for a bit, and I didn't want to go to San Francisco because it was really expensive, and I wanted to try somewhere new. And I heard really good things about Austin. And I thought I wanted to be in the U.S. for manufacturing purposes, but it just turned out that I was wrong, and it's better to be in Asia for that.
So, what businesses were you working on when you moved here to Austin?
I was working on TeeSpring. I had an Amazon FBA business running as well. And I was also working on designing a new product from scratch. So I had a bunch of different things going on.
I just looked it up. It was episode 43, and I think at that point you were doing a bunch of stuff in Chiang Mai, and you were crushing it on TeeSpring for a while. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what your best months were?
I think I made just a little over 100,000. I think about $110,000 in 3 months. That was probably
that is
around
insane.
Christmas.
And that was in profit.
That was profit. Yeah.
You made what people make with a good job over a year in 3 months.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It was great. I mean, it was. I guess how did that feel? Like on the one hand, it felt amazing. It felt really liberating, and it felt like a lot of the things I was working hard for were paying off. On the other hand, I was working so hard that I didn't really have time to enjoy it that much. It was like, I was literally waking up at 8 a.m., getting to Pun Space by 9 and just staying there till midnight every day. So
from people on the outside, they assumed, they can start selling t-shirts on TeeSpring on Facebook, and they can make $30,000 a month. And what they were lacking is they didn't have your work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a combination of skill, the knowledge of how to do it. And you spent a lot of money educating yourself how to do it, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember how much you ended up spending just to learn it?
I probably spent. I joined a mastermind program that was $6,000, and I probably spent a couple $1,000s on other things. So maybe $8,000 or $9,000 on education. And
you were working from morning till night.
Yeah, and I think that's not what I would be able to do. I don't think I could do that on a normal basis. But at that time, it was really clear to me that this is life-changing money, and that I should really, milk it for all it's worth while it's happening.
It was like a cash grab almost.
It was like a cash grab, and I wasn't the only one doing it. There was in the exact same markets as me, using the exact same systems, there was at least 4 or 5 other people. So it's really whoever can execute the fastest would get the money.
And were they all part of the same mastermind, or
no.
How did they learn it, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know them. But it's not hard to spy on each other's designs, so I could see when other people are copying what I'm doing, and when we're racing against doing the same things. Yeah.
Okay. So some people might not actually know what TeeSpring is. Can you
Sure.
quickly just mention what that is?
Yeah, so TeeSpring is a website that lets you upload designs, and when you sell the designs, TeeSpring charges the cost of the t-shirt and the printing to you. So let's say they charge $9, and you get to keep the rest. So if you sell a t-shirt for $22 and they charge you $9, you get to keep the difference, $13, I believe. And then you use Facebook advertising to drive traffic to the t-shirt. So say it costs you $6 to acquire a customer, and you're making $13, so then you keep $7 as profit, and then you just scale that up to as large as you can within that market, and you replicate it to other markets and do more designs to the markets that you found.
Do you mind just talking about some of those markets or designs?
Sure. I mean, I did really well in sports, as well as pets. So things for dog owners. With sports, it was less about sports that you watch and more about sports that you do. So things like jet skiing or climbing or like activities that people feel proud of rather than like I like to watch football or boxing.
So like a typical shirt would have, let's say for like jogging would be like, would it be like a slogan? Like I run because, because I love it or something like that?
Yeah. Like
best runner.
yeah. Like, running was one that I did a little bit in that market, but I didn't do not as well as other people, but, yeah, it'd be something like, I run like a turtle walking through peanut butter, but I run anyway, God damn it, or something like that.
Okay.
So funny phrases do well. It tends to be either sassy, funny, or pride.
So who are the people that would buy this stuff?
It ranges. Honestly, I've had buyers from across the whole spectrum, but the best buyers are women 35 and older.
And why do you think that is compared to like a man in his like 20s or?
I think the older part is just because they have more money. I think it's also, I think the social fabric of the older crew is less critical. Like if you wear a shirt that's a little bit cheesy and kind of funny and you're 40 years old, it's seen as kind of cute. But if you wear it to like, if you're a sophomore in college and you're wearing something like that, like people, I think it's less funny.
Yeah. And I think people that are younger, a little bit more brand and fashion conscious, when it's someone who's a bit older, they don't care. They're over it. They have a family. They just, and they want to show off because that is their pride and joy. Like a lot of times when people are a bit older, they don't have that many hobbies. They don't have that much going for them. So whatever their one hobby is, they're really into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I do think that holds true across a lot of e-commerce though, like 35 plus women. I think that demographic specifically is a really high converting demographic, even in not in clothing, but just e-commerce in general.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think they're also a little bit less price conscious, not just because they make more money in general, but also because they don't have the time or energy to like shop around as much. Mm-hmm. If it was me and I saw one of these shirts that I thought was cool, I might say, well, I have the phrase, I wonder how much it would cost for me just to print it myself. I would find another site that lets me print a design. I might like try to Photoshop that design myself, to save $5 or $10. While someone who's like a grandma or even someone in their 40s, they're not going to do that. They probably don't know how to do it. Number one, and second, they don't have the time to do it.
Right.
They're just gonna buy the shirt.
Yeah.
So do you no longer do Teespring?
I don't do it anymore.
I think people listening to this are thinking that is insane. You were making $30,000 a month and you just stopped doing it. Mm-hmm. If you were still doing it, do you think you could still make some money from it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still friends with people who are doing similar numbers.
And so why did you personally stop?
It was a few reasons. First of all, I don't think I hired the right people and didn't build my team in the right way. I hired 2 Filipino VAs to run my Facebook ads. And when Facebook ads changed and when how Teespring worked changed, templated designs worked really well for a while. So a lot of shirts that look very similar, but catering it to different people. And then that stopped working almost completely.
Like what change made that stop working?
I think part of it was the fact that people just got tired of it is one thing, with people were in practically any market had seen 40 of these things by now. And they just kind of stopped it looking as cool. And I think partly Facebook ads getting more expensive, more competition. It's a number of different factors. So when Facebook ads changed, my team would have had to been retrained completely on everything. And I think at that point I had enough in savings and I was just really tired and I didn't want to like retrain that team. And I don't think it would have been the right move to retrain that team, because then if something changes again, I'd have to retrain it again. And like, I think if I were to do this business again, I would really have wanted to hire someone who was US based, passionate about internet advertising. They wanted to learn Facebook ads. They could understand Facebook ads so that when something changes, they can make decisions about it and stay up to date on what the news is, systems that are working today, and come up with their own ideas for how to adapt rather than having me have to come up with all the processes and, adapting the system. Yeah,
that absolutely makes sense. And I remember when we last talked in Chiang Mai and you were telling me the reason why you wanted to move to Austin was because you wanted to hire a couple full-time US based employees.
Mm-hmm.
Did that ever happen?
No, didn't happen.
Well, why did that never happen?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I tried to make it work with the Filipino team for too long, and then by the time I realized it wasn't working, I just didn't want to do that business anymore. And it was close to zero at that point. You know, we weren't making any money, and we hadn't been making money for a few weeks. And then I was like, you know what, I could lay off the team, you know, start over and hire a new team, retrain everyone, or I could just scrap the business and start something else new. And at that point, my Amazon FBA business was, I started it 9 months ago, and I hadn't been doing any work on it, and it was making $1,000 a month completely passive that whole time. So I just decided, you know what, this business has been doing passive income for 9 months for me already, and I'm just going to grow that business now instead.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And what's crazy is I remember I sat next to you and I watched you work, and I remember specifically asking you, I said, Derek, if I don't get into TeeSpring, is this something I'm going to regret? Mm-hmm. And you thought about it for quite a while, and you know, and I think you really wanted to give me like an honest answer. And you looked at me and you said, like, no, I don't think you're gonna regret it. Mm-hmm. And even though at that time money was pouring in. I mean, you know, that's over $1,000 a day on average of profit. Mm-hmm. And you know, and it wasn't that you wanted to like hide it from me. You know, you were like, if I was going to do it, you would, I honestly think you would have been like, yeah, awesome. You know, and here's some help. All right. Mm-hmm. But I think, you know, even at that time, even with all the money was coming in, you were kind of like, I don't think you're going to regret it if you don't do it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what, let me just like sit by you and see how it's actually done for, you know, just before I decide if I'm gonna do it or not. And I remember you're like, yeah, go ahead and just observe. And I'm watching you with 10 open tabs and I'm watching you juggling different Facebook ads, different spreadsheets, you know, all these designs. And you're like, and you're, you know, working, like really, really working for like 12 hours a day, every day from morning till night. And I was looking and I was like, I don't think I can even do this. You know, I can do it on a small scale. I can do it with like 1 or 2 designs. But how many designs did you have on average?
We're putting out, I think, close to 50 designs a week.
And so that's 50 different T-shirts every single week.
Right.
Each of them with their own campaign. Each of them with their own ads. I mean, it was a big empire.
Yeah. To launch 50 shirts a week, you have to launch 50 different campaigns, and each campaign has maybe 20 different keywords in it that you have to research and put together and design the ads for. And you have to manage the campaigns from the previous week. So, you know, I have to manage the 50 campaigns that we built last week. And each week, you know, probably like 40 of them will drop off. So I'm only managing 10, but then that'll add on to another 10 next week. So there's a continuing cycle of like, it's quite a lot of management and spreadsheets and data. It's a very data-driven business.
Yep. And I'm really bad with data. So I think that's why I never got into it. And I think at that time, you guys can look back on my income reports. That was, I don't know, I guess a year ago. I think I was making, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 a month maybe. Mm-hmm. So I was really happy because, you know, maybe I was actually making less than that. I might have been making about 3,000 a month or something. Because I remember I was really happy with what I was making, but I would look at what you were making and think, oh my goodness, like that is like 3 levels above, you know? Mm-hmm. And if I did jump ship and I started it, there's a chance that I would have done really well as well. I think realistically, it would have taken me 1 or 2 months to like really learn everything, you know, get started. And then I know for a fact I wouldn't have made 30K a month just because my work ethic and amount of hours wasn't going to be as high. Mm-hmm. So I probably would have made, you know, maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a month or whatever it is. And if I had stopped doing that, that would have been, you know, pretty much just gone.
Yeah.
So I think I was pretty lucky that I stuck to my skill sets and decided, let me just keep doing what is working for me. Mm-hmm. And my income has grown much slower, but very steadily. So over, you know, this last year, my income has gone from, you know, 3,000 or 5,000 a month to like well over 10K a month. And I don't know if that would have happened if I chased the dream, the next shiny best thing.
Right. And you actually built assets too, whereas I didn't build any assets. I made a pile of cash, and then when it was over, I had no cash flow and no assets, you know, from that experience. I mean, it was a great experience. I learned a lot of skills and made good money, but yeah, I'm definitely more interested in things that produce cash flow for the long term, business assets that can be sold once I'm finished and that kind of thing. No.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And to clarify that, like when Derek stopped doing his Teespring campaign, it's gone.
It's
there's,
gone.
There's
Completely gone.
Yeah. There's no Teespring store to sell. There's no brand name to sell. It's just gone, right?
Yeah.
But with me, like with my dropshipping stores, if I stop doing it, I can sell it usually for, between probably 12 to 18, usually about 18 times revenue. So if it's making $1,000 a month, you can usually sell it for $18,000, but so if you're making $3,000 a month, you can sell it for 3 times that much. So that's an asset that not only are you making money while you're running it, but at the end of, whenever you're selling it, you can also make, that money back.
Mm-hmm.
I also I want to talk about what you learned from Teespring, about FBA, about moving to Austin, about why you're moving back to Chiang Mai.
Cool.
And I want to also announce that I am officially a Texan resident now.
Awesome.
So we have a lot to talk about in this episode. So let's move on to what did you learn from the Teespring campaigns, and how is that applying to what you're doing now?
Cool. So a few things I learned from Teespring, like I learned that the people who make a lot of money and the people who make a little bit of money are very often not doing things all that differently. Like I wasn't doing things all that differently than, someone who's making $1,000 a month doing Teespring. All I did was I just scaled it up. Like they're launching 5 shirts a week. I'm launching 50 shirts a week. I hired everyone I could around me in Punspace. I literally was like, do you want to make some extra money? Do you know Photoshop? Great. Come work for me. And we scaled up as fast as we could. And in FBA, it's pretty similar. Like I just went to Freedom Fastlane 2 weeks ago, and the people who are doing $100,000 a month versus people versus I'm currently selling about $13,000 a month. Like we're not doing things very differently. They're just importing 100 products instead of my 3 or 4. So they're just executing the system at a much higher scale than I am. So that was one lesson. Second lesson is I started to really learn.
Well, you know what? Let me interrupt you. Let me
Sure.
just talk about that real quick. So first, I had Daniel Moran on the show. That was episode 46. So if you guys want to find out about him, he was kind of one of the most vocal guys about his FBA business. So he used to have the top selling yoga mat business, which I think he sold later on. So that's actually one benefit already of FBA over Teespring is you can sell that business afterwards because you're building an asset, you're building a brand.
Right.
So do you know how much he sold that company for? Did he ever mention it?
I think he did. I don't remember exactly. I don't think it was a large exit from what I understand, but I don't remember.
Do you know anything about that? Why did he sell it?
I think he actually sold it because it wasn't super profitable. It was an oversized item, so they had a lot of shipping issues. Amazon would only let you your storage for oversized is I think like 1/10 of your normal size storage, and it had to be shipped by boat from China. So there was a lot of hassle with the product, and I think they were taking money out of the business early. So with his main business, he didn't take money out, so he was able to grow it exponentially. Versus with the yoga business, they were taking money out to as part of it, and I think it was growing slowly and was a lot of hassle. I think was the reason they sold it, from what I understand.
Okay, that makes sense. But either way, it made a great case study.
Sure, yeah.
So
absolutely,
I like that. So let's. Well, I don't remember what I was going to say about, but let's move on. So you said with FBA, go on.
Sure.
What else? What else did you learn
from Teespring?
Yeah.
I learned how to evaluate business opportunities. I think it's like the internet can be a trap for because everyone tells you can make $10,000 a month doing whatever system it is. But the truth is there's different success rates with different business models. So you can make $10,000 a month selling multi-level marketing products, but statistically the success rate is like 0.4% chance that you're going to make minimum wage versus Amazon FBA. I think your chances of success are closer to 50%. But nobody will tell you that on the internet, but people that you know in person will. So I think what I learned was how to talk to how important it is to not get into a business before I know someone in person who's done it, and someone who I can ask questions of that I know face to face. So with Teespring, I started in Vietnam, with a friend of mine, Tung.
Yeah.
Cool. So I started, Tung gave me the overall system. I got a couple courses, went through them, and then I bought him dinner and, asked him all the questions I had. And he looked at my first few campaigns, and that made a big difference. And then I also learned a lot about masterminding and networking. So I formed a mastermind group. I went into the Facebook groups on TeeSpring and said, like, hey, any intermediate level sellers want to form a mastermind? And then we had a mastermind growing. And then I joined a couple masterminds, and then I met one of my mentors in person, who ended up introducing me to a lot of the really big sellers, people who are doing over $100,000 a month consistently. So I learned a lot about networking and how important it is to form groups, join groups, and make the effort to go to the conferences and meet my mentors in person and all that stuff.
I think that's fantastic. And I think one thing that you mentioned that a lot of people might not have really taken to heart is you weren't just kind of like value leeching off of people. You were like, first off, I think people are very happy to give you guidance and information if you actually do something with that information.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then are appreciative afterwards. People hate it when they give you good information and you ask 20 more questions without taking any action.
Yeah.
Or if you don't appreciate it. So the fact that you even took them to dinner, the fact that you actually implemented and did something with it, I'm sure that Tung was much happier to keep giving you information.
Yeah.
And Tung is a super cool guy. He was on the episode 54, and he is born in Vietnam, taught himself English, and basically taught himself like online business from Vietnam, which is probably one of the harder places to do anything, because like for payment processors and all this stuff.
Right.
So it's almost one of those things where he's a good example of, yes, it's sometimes, he doesn't have the privilege of being from a Western country like America or England or Australia, but he kind of shows that with a bit of hard work and a little bit of research on the side, you can make, you can make any business work from wherever you are, wherever you happen to be.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And, super nice guy as well. So you learned all these great lessons about networking, which I think is fantastic. I think that's why Austin's a very good place to be, and then Chiang Mai is an incredible place to be as well.
Agreed.
Yeah. Any other lessons off the top of your head?
Yeah, what I mentioned earlier about scaling and about hiring the right people, or that I didn't hire the right people and build the team in the right way, and that was a huge lesson.
But do you think that, so for example, I know if I wanted to scale and build more dropshipping stores, I know I can make a profit from it. I know I can do pretty well with it.
Yeah.
And I've actually toyed with it, thinking if I hire the right team to build it and run it, so I don't have to deal with it, I could build these stores not with the intention of running 10 stores, because it ends up being a lot of work. I think running 1 or 2 stores isn't that much work, but it's still something that you think about, especially if something happens. So for example, if I, in a month, I might not have any problems at all, and it doesn't take me any time to run my store. But if one person, they give me their wrong shipping address, and I'll get these emails, and I'll wake up with 26 emails from the same person, saying, I accidentally, I moved and I didn't give you my new address, and I don't know my order number. I don't remember which email I ordered it from. You need to, remedy this and send me a new product. And I'll respond back like, first off, I'm sorry. It's Sunday. No, we're not in the office. And then second, if you moved 3 weeks ago, why are you telling me now after the item's shipped and it's been sitting on someone's doorstep for the last 2 weeks? And these things are, I think, with every single business where you are the one financially responsible for shipping or sending something, it makes it has an element of it being a bit of a pain in the butt, which is why TeeSpring and Amazon FBA is so good, is because they can handle that customer service.
Yeah.
But so the only reason why I would even think about opening 10 stores, dropshipping stores, is because it's an asset afterwards, where I would run them each for 12 months and then sell them.
Yeah.
But that was never my plan, because I think my goal was always just to make enough money from my dropshipping stores, learn enough skills from it, and then do something else.
Yeah.
So do you, in retrospect, do you really regret not scaling it bigger? Because maybe that would have consumed, your whole life, and you wouldn't have had time or energy to do anything else.
Okay, I get the question. I think it would have been fun to scale it bigger. think it would have been interesting to make $100,000 a month. Like, never done that before. I don't know if it'll be that different than $30,000 or $40,000 a month. I think, I mean, long run, like, I think I mentioned earlier, like, I intend to get out of internet marketing by the end of 2016. So long run, I don't think any of, whether it's FBA or TeeSpring, I think I would have gotten out eventually anyway. So, I'm not sure. I think ideally I would have preferred to build the TeeSpring business in a way where it could have been sold, where instead of, and I think the only way to do that would have been to get off of TeeSpring, to, you know, find my 5 major markets, build websites of my own, build email lists, send traffic to my own site, still selling t-shirts and, you know, like custom apparel, and then shipping it via API through TeeSpring or through another service. And then once those are built up to a certain level, then those can be sold because they are assets that I own at that point. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think it would have been cool to maintain high numbers, but transform the business into a asset building business and then sell the asset, you know, a year or two down the line. But it's not what happened.
That's all right. And, you know, I think everything in hindsight is 2020, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, there's so many things that I would have done differently. But the thing is, I almost feel like if we try to do things a little bit too big too soon, sometimes we just don't do anything at all.
Yeah.
I think now that I think the requirements of doing a big scalable business is, one, you need to have enough reserve in cash where you don't start stressing, you know, because if you try to, you know, if you spend extra time and money, you know, building up the foundation before you start building revenue, or before you really start being profitable, you might end up just never launching. You know, so like, let's say you spent the time and energy building up, you know, these websites for TeeSpring, you know, on your own platform before you ever sold a single shirt, just using Facebook ads to TeeSpring. You know, maybe it could be a huge business right now. That's you know, that is an asset. Or you could have went halfway through it, and because you weren't making sales, you either would have ran out of money or ran out of patience and just never launched it.
Yeah, I think that would be a mistake for sure.
Yeah. So I think the way you did it was fantastic for starting. Said, you know, that's the kind of the bootstrap mentality. You're like, let me not build my own platform. Let me start selling on someone else's. Right. Test the markets, see if it works, have some cash reserved, and then while you're kind of letting that automate and run, then you can slowly move it to your platform.
Yeah.
So I think kind of for people who listen to this, if you guys are just starting out, I would say do the minimal viable thing, sell on someone else's platform, but keep these big picture things in mind, because I do think that they are very important. And sometimes we get lazy. We were like, it's so much easier to sell and let TeeSpring handle everything, or let Amazon handle everything, right, instead of doing it ourselves.
Yeah,
I like it. So how's your FBA business going now?
It's going okay. So like I said, I let it run itself for 9 months and it was doing $1,000 a month. In the last 4 months, it's increased to about $3,000 a month, and this is net profit. So I have realized that I'm probably in the wrong category. I'm selling in the supplements category right now, and it's extremely difficult. It's pretty capital intensive, and I'm going to be switching to selling kitchen products, importing from China. And but yeah, to answer your question, I think it's going pretty good. It takes very little effort to maintain my current business, so most of the time that I spend right now is on launching new things. And I don't know, it's one of the easiest, like, compared to running a TeeSpring business, like running an Amazon business is so easy. Yeah, it's one of the easiest businesses I've ever started, and it's super passive. So yeah, Amazon really does do a lot of the work. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I've met now so many people who are doing at least decently well on Amazon. I think that's hard because I think most of the people that I've met, at least in Chiang Mai, they were just starting out. Yeah. So I haven't personally met that many people who are like crushing it. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are making less than $1,000 a month, but then they're putting all that money back into the business. Yeah. But I like what you said earlier about the success rate is pretty high.
It's really high. Yeah. It's one of the highest I've seen.
I almost feel like if someone actually pulls the trigger and orders the inventory, I'm sure the success rate, if you count people who thought about selling on Amazon,
Sure.
or even people who signed up for a course, if you factor all that in, it's probably very low. Just like everything else in the world, because a lot of people, they just never even get started. They'll buy something or they'll think about something and they'll just never start.
Yeah.
But for people who actually launch, and so for Amazon, it would be like actually send the items to Amazon.
Right.
Then I can see 100% like that success rate being super high, because Amazon has such a big customer base. They just buy everything.
Yeah.
People just like buy stuff.
I have seen, so the reason I said 50% is I do know a few people that launched things and it didn't really work out very well. And I think the reason is just bad product selection. Like it's so important with Amazon to choose the right product. Super important. But yeah, I'd say, so I think the good thing with Amazon is you'll never, I don't know anyone who hasn't been able to sell their inventory. So like if you buy 500 units, the worst case scenario is you'll just sell 2 or 3 units a day, and it'll take you 4 months to sell out your inventory, and you don't have a home run winner, and you'll recoup your cash in a few months. I don't know anyone that just has their inventory stuck and they can't get rid of it. So it will sell. Whether or not you can sell at a high enough velocity to build a business around is where I think the 50% comes in. But I think that's still a really high percentage. Like the percentage of people that succeed in TeeSpring, I'd say, is like 2% probably.
Yeah, but I think with TeeSpring, kind of because it's such a low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will launch it without really knowing that much.
Yeah.
They're not as invested.
Right.
But also, I think selling. So to me, TeeSpring is almost a digital product, even though technically it's a T-shirt, so it's something physical. Mm-hmm. But I think it's one of those things that are so abstract. When people buy it, they're not really buying. In their mind, they're not really buying something. Like for example, right now I'm using a new preamp for these mics. So if this episode sounds better, leave a comment on episode 99. Let me know, because I just spent not a lot of money. It was actually only $100. I'll have a photo of it, but it's called a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, and it's a way to plug in these microphones, these Audio-Technica mics, into a preamp before it goes to the computer. So it's supposed to sound better. It's supposed to have less noise in the background, especially if you have like nice headphones on. But for example, this XLR cable that connects these things. I just bought 2 more on Amazon because these are too long. And it's just kind of a pain to travel with. So I wanted shorter ones. And in my mind, that is it is a physical product. It has a utility. I know the value of it. In my mind, I know this is worth $15. Mm-hmm. It makes it very easy for me to buy. When I buy a digital product, let's say an ebook or something, or I think, for whatever reason, when I buy a T-shirt, that has a cool slogan on it, I consider it kind of the same thing. I'm like, what's the actual value of this? Is this worth $5 or is this worth $100? And there's no like utility value. It's kind of just this cool idea.
Huh. Got it.
Yeah. And I think that those things are much harder in the beginning when you're starting out, especially as a seller, mm-hmm. because you might not even know what people are willing to pay for it. Right. Like when you first sell an ebook, a lot of people's first ebooks, they sell for 99 cents.
Sure.
Or they'll, give them away and people don't even want it for free.
Right.
And then there's also people selling ebooks for like $400.
Yeah.
And it'd be easy to say, oh, you should just, charge $400 for it. But I think if you don't have, and it can't be, when people just say you have to believe it's worth $400, I think to me that's a lot of BS, because you can't just believe it's worth $400 and have people buy it and be happy with it. It has to, be genuinely worth that much. But at the same time, I think even if it is worth that much, people have a very hard time like launching it and asking for that price. Mm-hmm. So with with Amazon FBA, you can kind of see what everyone else is selling it for, and you can say, well, mine has better packaging, or mine has, nicer photos, or it is made better. Mm-hmm. So I can charge 10% more, 20% more than the competitor. Sure. And you have this baseline, and when people buy it, they can see the value, versus when you sell a digital product, people, it's hard for them to see the value. You have to paint the value.
Right. Yeah.
I think FBA is still one of those things that I regret not pulling the trigger on sooner.
So my opinion on this right now is that I think the gold rush is not over. And I thought it was over And then I went to Freedom Fastlane and, met a bunch of people who are doing huge numbers. And I, talking to them, they're just like, yeah, we're launching 5 products a month right now. And, they're all hitting. Like, some of them are sourcing at the Canton Fair. Some of them are sourcing through Alibaba. But like, there is not the sense from what I can tell that like, there's not really a sense that it's gotten a lot harder. And, so yeah, I think there's still a window. I think there's probably going to be a window for a couple years for private label. And then I think after that, there will still be a window for many years for improving products. But yeah, I think Amazon FBA as a private label seller, I think there's still a window for at least another couple years.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I think at this point, especially like the next time I have some free time, I'm definitely gonna do it because I don't really mind if I lose 10 grand at this point.
Yeah,
in inventory. And I think for someone who has 0 income and has to borrow 10 grand, I don't know if that's what I would recommend doing for your very first thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably tell you to freelance or something, to be honest. Or maybe even like write like a Kindle book or something. But I think at this point, like it's for me, I think this is a valuable, I'll learn valuable lessons from it. So I'll be happy to just do it anyways. I think the only thing that has stopped me so far, and I really firmly believe this, is by like private labeling, a crappy product, I think it's not going to be beneficial in the long run. It has to be, you can private label a good product, even if you're not that different from everyone else, but if you can build a brand around it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sell a piece of crap product, because I really think that's going to, bite us in the butt at the end of the day. So I think I'm going to spend a lot of time, and actually, I'm going to write down my like kind of core missions of my product. And one of them is going to be, I'm going to have to actually receive it. Cause there's so many people who have sold on Amazon. They've never even seen their product.
Sure.
And I don't want to be one of those guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
So I think as long as I follow that, and it's the product that I actually really think works well and I believe in, I think I can be very successful with that.
Cool.
But I do think so there, and the only reason I'm saying all this is because as a Amazon customer, it has become harder for me to find quality products.
I agree. Yeah.
Because everyone's gaming the algorithms, but also the reviews.
Right.
So as a customer, I wanted to buy stuff. Like there's a lot of things I wanted to buy for Christmas or for myself, especially because I don't go back to the US that often. So I had to buy a bunch of crap. And I think I had like $900 in gift cards saved up, because when I first started as an Amazon affiliate, I didn't have direct deposit set up. So I would just have them give me Amazon gift card credits.
Gotcha.
So I had all this free money. I had like $900 of free cash to buy stuff. And even then I was like reading reviews for these products. Like I wanted to buy a GoPro. So I wanted to buy all these accessories for it. And I'm reading the reviews. I'm looking at what's coming up. And I'm like, all this is crap. There was like, I can tell that these were all FBA products that were not really well made. That they just were following, these formulas to gamify it.
Yeah.
And because I could not find these basic products that I wanted a red filter to use my GoPro underwater to scuba dive. I needed like a floaty mount to hold it, and I needed some other things like some cases and stuff. And because I could not find quality products, I ended up just not even buying the GoPro.
Yeah. And
I really feel like, like more and more customers are going to feel that way. Amazon is going to say, you know what? F these, these sellers selling crappy products. They're ruining, they're hurting our business now. Let's slap them. Yeah.
I agree with that. There's already a crackdown, I think, from Amazon on people who are very aggressive with reviews. Like I've seen it on some of my products. Like so with FBA, the way you get reviews is you give away products for free and people review them. In the past, when I give away 50 products, I'd usually get 45 reviews back. Today, I probably get like 30. So like a lot of them are just Amazon just takes them off. They're like, yeah, I don't know. People are having a lot. It's harder today to get reviews than it is before.
But do you think that the people who are already established and that have, the couple hundred reviews, they're going to have a kind of monopoly now because it's going to be harder to compete?
Yes, in a way. That said, like there's new products, new markets coming out all the time. Like just now for Christmas, there's a trend towards air, like cocktail mixers for airplanes. There's a huge trend for like essential oil equipment, diffusers, and like there's new products coming out every year. Yes, I think certain products I think a lot of products like are just too saturated to get into it now. Like French presses were big at a certain point, but like to get into that market, you need like 3,000 reviews. It's just kind of out of the question at this point. So yes, I think there are definitely markets where you just can't get into anymore. And once kind of all the markets get to that point is where I think we will be in like 2 or 3 years, where private labeling will just become a lot more difficult. But I think I think we're not even close to there yet. And, you know, like I'm looking at products pretty actively at the moment, and there's a lot of products that I can sell right now that have less than 25 reviews that are selling 20 to 50 units a day. So
very cool. And are you still doing that process manually, or are you using software now?
Software. Yeah. Jungle Scout is the software I use.
Very cool. Yeah, and I think like stuff like that makes it so much easier. But I actually think that when people first start, they should actually do the research manually in the beginning, just to kind of really understand the process of it and how it works. You know, not necessarily, you know, pick the product from it, but just do at least some research manually, just to kind of, you know, get an idea of what the software does.
Yeah.
And then, you know, before you start buying up tons of software that you may or may not know how to use. And so I think with FBA, even though there are a lot of potential negatives to it, I think the positives definitely outweigh the negatives.
I agree. Yeah, it is one of the most passive and one of the easiest to start businesses that I've seen. And I think to address the cash flow issue that you mentioned earlier, I think it's true. You do need to be willing to risk $2,000 to $3,000 to get an initial order in. And I think you do need to have money to scale. So yeah, you might need to put $10,000 in, but you won't do that until you already know it's selling. So you can test for $2,000, and then once it's selling, then you're like, okay, I want to buy more inventory. I want to give more away so I can boost my reviews. I want to run sponsored ads. But you only do that once you're already making money. So
okay,
yeah,
I like it. So for 2016, if anyone wants to do FBA, you know, keep listening to this podcast. I'm sure we can talk about it more often. Pretty happy. So let's talk about Austin.
Cool.
How do you like it so far?
It's great. This is a great city. It's one of the best cities I've been to for dating. There's a lot of fun activities, outdoor activities, interesting people. It's an intersection of a lot of different scenes. So there's a decent sized tech scene here. There's a good like Burning Man scene. Yeah, it's a really fun town. It's as far as American cities go, it's not a cheap city necessarily. It's cheaper than San Francisco or New York, but it's more expensive than like Portland or Boulder or most other major cities. But yeah, a really fun town. I think for people running businesses like ours, like e-commerce, FBA, that kind of thing, I don't think it's the best place. I think Chiang Mai or Saigon, the kind of more nomad hubs, are actually a lot better business-wise. But for fun and for lifestyle, Austin has been awesome.
Yeah. And also for tax purposes.
For tax purposes, yes.
So are you now an Austin resident?
I am a legal Texas resident. I am a Texan.
Were you California before that?
Yeah. Okay.
So can you tell me about your process on how you switched that over?
Yeah, it wasn't that hard. I mean, it just took a little bit of time. It was actually really confusing. So at first I called the DMV and I said like, hey, I want to transfer over from California to here, but I lost my license. I think I got robbed in Vietnam or something. So I had my license in the wallet, and you know, I was overseas. So I never bothered to like get another one. So they said, yeah, if you don't have your physical license, you're gonna have to retake driver's ed and retake the test. And then so I took driver's ed course with like 16-year-olds all around me, and then I went to the DMV and they're like, oh, you didn't have to take that. Just we can find it in the system. So I had to bring my I think my water bill and my lease. And then, and another issue was I had to get my social security card, which I had no idea where it was. So I had to order a new one. So I had to bring all those things. So it took me about 2 months to get everything sorted out and get it at the DMV, and then got my driver's license.
That's insane. That's a process, man.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been easier if you had just requested another California driver license?
Right. Yeah, it would have been easier, but then, didn't want, there's the whole tax thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why I had decided to become a resident of Texas is because I haven't actually lived in California since 2008.
Yeah.
You know, I pretty much live in Thailand. You know, I'm there 11 months of the year. I'm not a resident of Thailand because they just don't allow you to do that, really.
Yeah.
And I'm not always in Thailand. I'm traveling around. I mean, I plan on spending a few months in Europe, a few months in, wherever else. So I decided, I was like, well, the only reason why my technical residence or my domicile is in California is because I can send my mail there because to my parents' house, and they can help me with it. But I've also realized my parents are not the best at forwarding my mail or doing anything with it. My goal is actually not to have any mail anyways. Like I want everything electronic. So I had decided, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be in Texas for New Year's Eve anyways. Let me see what process it would be to become a Texas resident, because when I do move back to the U.S. full time, I'm going to live in Texas most likely in Austin, just because the lifestyle here is so great.
Yeah.
It's such a cool city. What I like about it is, first, it's warmer than San Francisco, and I really don't like the cold. It's much cheaper in terms of housing, especially if you don't mind living outside of downtown.
Yeah.
I think if you want to live anywhere in San Francisco, your rent is probably like $2,000 a month. So I think so. If we compare, I mean, there's always ways to save money, but I'm saying, like, if you want, like, let's say a 1-bedroom apartment in a nice condo that has like a gym in the condo in San Francisco, that'll probably be closer to $3,000 a month. In Austin downtown, do you know how much that would be?
Downtown Austin,
Yeah.
It's about 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah.
So that's half, which is
Yeah.
great. But what I really like about Austin is you can live 20 minutes north or south of the city and still be very close to everything. And for $1,500, you can get a 3-bedroom house or 4-bedroom house even. Like, I've seen some beautiful houses, just outside the city, and it's gorgeous. And the thing about San Francisco is you can't really live outside the city, because then you would actually be in another city.
Right.
While if you live outside of Austin, you're still in Austin.
Right.
Which is cool. Can I ask what you spend?
I probably spend, I'm guessing about $2,500 a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about for your rent?
It is $1,000 for everything. About $1,000. So
Okay.
including electricity and internet and all that stuff.
And is that shared or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, do you live in, like, tell me about your place. Is it in the city? Is it out of the city? How many roommates? All that.
3 roommates. It's a little bit outside of. I mean, it's it would be a 5-minute drive to downtown, and like a 3-minute drive to Whole Foods. What were the other questions? Sorry.
Yeah, and so okay, so you have there's 4 people in the house total.
No, three.
Oh, there's 3 people total.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's
all right.
it's a pretty big place. Nice balcony,
And was it furnished or no?
furnished.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
How'd you find that?
Friend of someone I met in Bangkok.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So, much more affordable to live in Austin.
And this is the kind of like, I think you could find places for a lot less. It's actually a pretty nice place.
Yeah, like here you have so many options, which I like. But what you also have here is not only do you have like the startup and tech scene, you have everything that goes along with that. So you have all the apps first. So like when Uber and Lyft and all that stuff came out, they would do San Francisco first, then maybe New York, and then places like Austin.
Right.
Versus if you lived in Wichita Falls or
Chiang Mai.
or Chiang Mai, you get it like years and years later.
Right.
So I really do like that. You also get really nice restaurants out here. Like some of the greatest food, some of the best restaurants are in Austin.
Yeah.
Like amazing barbecue. Went to a place last night. I was like farm to table. But you also pay for it. Someone took me to dinner last night, and the bill was like $100 for 2 of us. And in Chiang Mai, like you can have something probably pretty similar for $30.
Sure. Yeah.
So
totally.
that's a big difference. So the cost of living here is definitely, U.S. prices is much higher.
Yeah.
But I think where you save is in the rent.
Versus San Francisco. Yeah.
Versus San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, so I figured when I do permanently move back to the U.S., it's going to be Austin because I like it.
Yeah.
I think what I would probably do is for the first 6 months or a year, I would live close to downtown just to kind of get that out of my system. But I think when I actually settle down, I would live like 30 minutes north or something.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I like it. So I just looked up how much income tax is for California, and it is, if you make between $50,000 to $250,000, which is probably my current bracket, it's 9.3%.
Jesus.
So that is, so let's say you make $100,000 this year, and if you're not making that much yet, your goal should be to make $100,000 this year, right? So like you should calculate this. You shouldn't just put it off. So that is $9,300. So
Right.
it's almost 10 grand.
Yeah.
Just paying in California. And to be fair, if you actually lived in California and you're enjoying the services, then you should pay that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't live there. Like
Right.
I was there. I haven't been there the whole year. And when I came back, I was there for 4 days. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna legally become a Texas resident. I'm gonna get an address here. I'm gonna change over my driver license.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do all that and just not pay 10 grand a year.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna write a blog post on johnnyft.com on everything I did. But basically, I was able to do it in 1 day, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. The first step was I had to get a mailing address. So I actually I was looking for like places that will scan and forward your mail, but a lot of them seem so impersonal because of these like big giant companies that are nationwide, but they just have different addresses you can use, and all of it's automated. All of it's like will automatically scan your mail and then forward it.
Yeah.
I wanted something a bit more personal, so I joined an RV club.
What?
Yeah, because retirees that have an RV, they live in their RV year round, so they just drive around in different states. But they need to have an address, and there's a lot of benefits,
Oh, wow.
like taxes, but other things too, of being a Texas resident. So as a member of this RV club, you can have an address, and you can actually and it's up in Wichita Falls, which is like a very small town in Texas, but on the border of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, used to dealing with these like, old retirees. So they actually answer their phone. They're nice. You actually have someone you could talk to and say, can you read me this letter, please? And they'll do these things for you. So I got an address. It's if you are a subscriber to my mailing list on Johnny FD, you will notice I changed my mailing address on the bottom. And that is my actual mailing address. If you want to send me something, I'll get it. It'll just be forwarded to me wherever I am. And then I had to get a driver license. But reading the requirements, it's kind of a pain where you have to really show that you're living here, because they don't want just to be a Texas resident for no reason.
Right.
And because I'm not signing any utility bills, that makes it really hard. So what I did instead was technically I have a lease up in Wichita Falls as a member of this RV club, where that part of that property is mine now. So I have a rental agreement. I guess especially if I was actually going to buy an RV and live up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to show one more thing. So I opened a Texas bank account. So I'm now a member of the Greater Texas Credit Union. And with those two things, I was able to go to the DMV and say, here's my social security card. Here's my driver license from California, which they took, and my passport, because you have to show 2 forms of ID and your social security card, and then 2 documents showing that you are now living here. So I had in total 5 items: and my California driver license, my social security card, my passport, my bank statement showing that I have a bank account in Texas with the Texas address, and then also my lease agreement for my mail, but also kind of, I guess, my domicile up in Wichita Falls. And with those 5 things, they said, welcome to Texas. Here's your driver license. On that form, I also registered to vote in Texas. I changed my banking details from Chase to Texas as well. And now the process is basically I have to move everything from California. Like if you're going to do this, you have to get rid of every single trace of being in California.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Because technically California can come after you saying, well, it looks like you still have so-and-so in California, so you're technically doing business in California.
Interesting.
So if you haven't done that yet, you have to get rid of everything.
Got it. Cool. Yeah, I'm still using. I opened my bank accounts in California, but I think I changed it over. No, wait. No, I think what the bank did is they closed my California account and opened a Texas account with the same bank. So Wells Fargo closed my California account and opened a Texas account and transferred the money over. So I got different cards and different account numbers, but it's still with them and looks basically the same from my end.
Okay. That's easy. I think the other reason why, so other things I'm doing, which I'm still in the process of, is so I have my California reseller's license for my dropshipping stores. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the process of closing that out.
Cool.
And so I don't know how long this is going to take. But the thing is, I really do plan on being like living in Texas full time. So technically, I am living in Texas. I'm here now, and I'm just going to Thailand on vacation. I'm going to Europe on vacation.
Yeah.
So whenever I come back, it's going to be to Texas, unless I'm visiting my parents in San Francisco. So it's one of those things where, I'm not in the U.S. I'm not moving back to the U.S. as in I'm not going to stay here 12 months in the year. But whenever I am in the U.S., I'm Texas now. So if my accent changes, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sure that'd be a bit annoying. But yeah, I mean, it's so why choose Texas over like Nevada or Florida or these other places with no income?
For me, the tax thing was a factor, but it wasn't the main factor. I think the main reason I wanted to live in Austin is just because I heard of first of all, there's a lot of Dynamite Circle people here. There's a lot of entrepreneurial activity, but also I just heard a lot of really great things about the city and I wanted to see it. So yeah, and the tax thing definitely helped tip the scales in favor as well. Not only do I not have to pay income tax while I'm here, but like any amount of time I spend traveling after this, I don't have to pay income tax. So that was great. But yeah, I mostly wanted to explore Texas because I wanted to explore Texas.
Is your family still in San Francisco?
My mom's in Hong Kong.
Okay, all right. And so I think it's almost one of those things where like it would be easier if everyone we knew also moved to Texas, especially like family wise. But it has to start somewhere.
Yeah, it's
one of those things where if you grew up, wherever you grew up, and you just stay there and you have kids there because your family's close to there, then the next generation is going to do the same thing.
Right.
So it's going to take one person to make that move.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays with flights being pretty cheap, pretty easy, there's not really a huge reason why you can't. And what's crazy is, I see my parents pretty much as often now living overseas as I did when I lived in the same state.
Huh.
Because when I was in LA or Orange County and my parents in San Francisco, I would only go up for holidays. I would only go up for someone's wedding or for Christmas or for Thanksgiving maybe. And often I wouldn't even go for both. I would go for either Christmas or Thanksgiving. So I would see them twice a year or 3 times a year because they never came down to see me. And now my parents came out to Thailand to meet me. We went to Taiwan together. Now I'm back for Christmas. This summer we want to go to Europe.
Wow.
So I'm going to see them pretty much is the exact same amount as I would have living in the same state. And if I can get everyone to move out to Austin, I think that would be the goal.
Nice.
But you mentioned that you're going to move back to Chiang Mai.
Yeah.
When is that and why?
So everything I have here is probably going to be wrapped up around March. And I don't really want to stay for the South by Madness. So I will be probably leaving here around March 7th, which is burning season in Chiang Mai. So I'll probably actually spend a month in Koh Phangan and maybe a month in Bali and then jump up to Chiang Mai after that. But to answer your question, why? For a few reasons. One, I'm going to be working a lot more with China this year, importing products for FBA. So being close to China is good. B, I think the entrepreneurial community is just a lot stronger in Southeast Asia. The sense of like co-working next to everyone who's working in similar businesses, always, like whether you're at coffee shops or at I forget the salad place, what it's called, but just like everywhere you go, it's just people running their own businesses and you're, sharing ideas and motivating each other. It just doesn't feel like that here. It's much more spaced out. The community meets a lot less often. And at the co-working spaces, there's a lot fewer entrepreneurs here.
Yeah, so we're at a co-working space now. And I purposely came to this one because I had heard it's the most social out of all the places. So if you go to WeWork or if you go to the Regus, office spaces or whatever, there's a lot of people who are in teams or in startups that they hang out with their other like partners, I guess, or people working there, but they're not really trying to meet new people and be social.
Yeah.
So far, the Chikon Collective has been fantastic as people super cool. But talking to people, everybody is doing bootstrap businesses.
Yeah.
They're either freelancing for other people. There's people working for universities. Like somebody said that I met a girl and she said she teaches online. And in my mind, I was like, oh, do you have a course or do you teach on Udemy? And then she's like, no, I teach online for a university. And it blew my mind because you would think that is actually the norm. And in the US, it is. If you say you teach online, you probably are a professor at a university and you just happen to teach online. But in Chiang Mai, I guarantee you they are teaching online for themselves. They're not part of university. They're doing either a course, they're maybe teaching English, or they're teaching on Udemy. So I definitely think that mindset's different.
Yeah.
And yeah, for the other people here as well, they're working as part of a startup. So they're basically either employee or partner of a startup. But it doesn't seem like that many people are bootstrapping their businesses.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so I just wanted to be around that environment. I think I was a lot more productive in Chiang Mai than I am in Austin. So
why do you think you were more productive? Do you think it was the lack of responsibilities there, or because everyone else is productive, or I
think because everyone else is productive. Because I'm around. I think a big part of it is like people know what you're working on and people know what your goals are. Like everyone in Pun Space knows what you Johnny are working on, and they knew what I was working on, and we're constantly asking each other like, how's your business going? What are you doing? What you working on this week? Like nobody does that here, and so like I don't feel like there's any social. There's not like it's not like there's social agreements to keep each other accountable. But we kind of do. Like people are keeping tabs on each other, and like here I never felt like anyone really knew or cared about what I was working on. So
do you think it's just because they're in such a different industry that they just don't understand?
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
But I think it's also because when you are working for a salary, it feels weird to ask other people like, how did you do this week?
Sure.
And how much, like, it's so weird that I can ask you, how much money did you make last month? And you just tell me.
Yeah, which is normal in Chiang Mai, I think, or like
in Chiang Mai, like in Chiang Mai, pretty much everyone is just open. They're like, yeah, I made, and it could be a very small amount. It could be like, oh, I made $300 this month. I'm so happy. I made my first, $21, or I just got a new freelance client. He's paying me $400. While in the U.S. in general, pretty much the rest of the world, I'm sure, if you went to Germany or something, or England, it'd be even more frowned upon to ask how much someone made. But yeah, in Chiang Mai, it's so nice that people are so open because it shows you what is possible, what's actually currently working, and it kind of gives you an idea of what you can aim for, and also what's kind of realistic, and how much effort it takes. Because when I see how much you are working, because I was there at Pun Space, and I can see how much effort you're putting in, and then you tell me how much you made, I can see where that money came from. Versus, a place like here, there's not that many people at this co-working space. There's probably like, there's 10 people, which is not bad. But in Chiang Mai, it'd probably be like 30 people. And Chiang Mai is a smaller city. Like it seems like in Austin, people are busy doing their own thing.
Yeah.
But there's also more to do in Austin. You have to agree the social life is it's different. I mean, I think if you have never been to Asia, your mind will be blown. You'll be like, what? I can ride an elephant. I can ATV in the jungle. I can, go scuba diving. And these are things you can't do in Austin.
Right.
But I think for people that want to live in a normal city and you want to go to, all you can eat barbecue joint, if you want to go to a place that has donut hamburgers, or, just kind of, just like a lot of craft beer bars and stuff. Like we don't really have that as much in Chiang Mai, so Austin is much better for that.
Yeah. So I think I miss being in the flow of that like entrepreneurial community. I guess that sentence didn't make much sense, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
Just kind of. So some people still say that nobody in Chiang Mai is making any money. Everyone's a backpacker. Everyone's bootstrapping. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that's true. I mean, you're well over 10,000 a month. I made I think my best month, like over $40,000 or $50,000. Like between Christmas, there was a weekend where I made $10,000 in a weekend. So like, and yeah, I know at least, I don't want to name names on the podcast, but yeah, I know several people that are doing at least 5 figures a month in Chiang Mai. I think Chiang Mai, there are a lot of beginners there. It is super cheap, and there's a lot of mentorship available, so people do congregate. But I think even among higher level people, I think there's there's actually quite a few people that are making decent money in Chiang Mai, and I think like here in Austin, for example, yes, there are a lot of people. There are startups that are doing $1 million a month. There's even there's Amazon sellers. There's a couple Amazon sellers who are doing big numbers. A lot of them are not actually, Amazon isn't their main thing. They have a sporting like Peter Keller is a Dynamite Circle member. He has a sports goods company, and Amazon's just one of his channels. But in Austin, it's much harder to meet people. People are less accessible, I think, than Chiang Mai. Like Chiang Mai, you meet everyone. Basically, everyone knows everyone. Austin, it's harder to run into people. People have more going on. They have employees. They have schedules. They have families. They have, friend circles they've had for 20 years versus Chiang Mai. Everyone wants to meet everyone because nobody has any friends. Not exactly, but,
No, I mean, it's true. It's more of like a traveler's mentality.
Yeah.
Where everyone's kind of new to town. It's almost like your first year of college.
Yeah.
Where if you guys remember walking around the dorms, knocking on people's doors like, hey, I'm new here. What's your name?
Right.
Gonna hang out.
And everyone's like that because everyone's new here, sort of. So I think there is actually quite a few people who are earning decent money in Chiang Mai and Saigon as well. I think Saigon is there's probably like just a half step up from Chiang Mai, and it's definitely worth visiting both places. But people are much more accessible in Chiang Mai, I think. So
yeah, 100%. Saigon's great if you have a social circle already, if you have a friend circle, or if you're part of a group like the Dynamite Circle, and you're paying like a quarterly membership fee to be a part of a group. But in Chiang Mai is one of the very few places you can kind of just show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think within a few days, you probably have 20 friends.
Yeah.
And all 20 of them are doing some kind of online business. And you know what? Yeah. And most people are just starting out, because it's this whole digital nomad scene is pretty new. It's still relatively new. It's only really been going on for a few years. And a lot of people, this is their first trip. They're just starting out. But I mean, when did you get an online business?
I started a long time ago, actually, when I was 18. So 10 years. I started 10 years ago.
So you're
but not as an entrepreneur, though. I started as an employee for 4 or 5 years, and then I started building things 5 years ago.
So you're an OG.
I guess.
All right. So original gangsta, Derek Pankaew, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
If people want to reach out to you, follow you, how can they find you?
DerekPankaew@gmail.com. It's email.
Nice. You're not on Twitter or anything? Instagram?
No.
Nothing?
No, not
wow.
really.
All right. So, everyone, happy holidays, and see you guys in 2016. This is insane.
See you guys in 2016. Yeah.
Yeah. And Derek, I'll see you back in Chiang Mai.
See you there.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.